Here I'm getting ready to trim off the bottom of the door, and here's a tip for keeping it from chipping out. What I do is I use a normal skill saw. This happens to be battery operated, but any normal one will work. And I have a straight edge clamped on the door, and that lines up with the back edge of the shoe so that I get the cut where I want it. Now, to go ahead and cut right through now, I might get chip up, especially on the end grain here. So to stop that from happening is I make a scoring cut. Scoring cut will be about 1/8 of an inch deep. That. And then I'll run that through, and then I'll adjust the fence. To make the next cut, the cut all the way through, I'm going to move the fence slightly, make a little mark here, and a little mark here. That's just past the edge of the fence. And I'm just going to use my mallet to move the fence over slightly. You don't have to loosen the clamps or anything like that. You just got to tap it over until it comes up to your new mark. Then I'll readjust the depth of cut on the saw. And it's as simple as that. No chip out, a nice clean cut. Both edges of the door are beveled in the same way. Normally when a door comes out from the manufacturer, unless it's a pre-hung door, it'll have square edges. The bevel is there to allow the door to close and open correctly. Usually this bevel is 2 to 3 degrees. It's not really critical. It should be somewhere in that area. What I just did was I used the skill saw set at a 2-degree angle to pre-cut the bevel. Now, before I work on the door any further, I'll take the electric planer and I'll plane this smooth. What I've got here is what's called a door buck, and what it does is it holds the door in an upright position on its edge so that you can work on the edge, bevel it properly, and cut in the mortises for the hinges. The way this is constructed, I'm going to show it in more detail on my website, but I'll quickly run through it right now. This is a strip of plywood on the bottom, and there's a couple of feet on the end here, and some pieces of 2x6 that are cut on an angle. What happens is the door sits down inside here, pushes down on the bottom, and the top will pinch together and hold the door. So, put that on the floor like that. Get your door set down on the floor. Get it in the door buck, and then when you push it down, it pinches it together and holds it tight. That will allow you to comfortably work on the edge of the door without it tipping over or moving around too much. So what I have here is a electric planer, and I'm going to use that to give this one pass along this edge just to clean up the saw marks from cutting the bevel in. When you're using this tool, you want to push down on the rear of the machine with the hand holding it, not pushing forwards, but pushing firmly downwards towards the back here, so that makes good contact with the wood. The hinges on a residential door are pretty much not standard where they're located on the door. It usually goes by preference. I prefer to have the top hinge 7 inches down from the top, and that would be the top of the hinge, and the bottom hinge 8 inches up from the bottom, and that would be the bottom of that hinge. The hinge is located with the barrel on the high side of the bevel. The high side of the bevel is always the pull side of the door. So what I'll do is I'll line up my hinge. I've already got my mark. I'll make a mark here that corresponds with the back edge of the hinge here on the top and on the bottom. Now I'm ready to use my template, or install my template. This is just a plywood template that I made up. It has a cutout for 3-inch hinges and for 3.5-inch hinges. And the way this works is it just sits on the edge here like this. It lines up with the marks I already have on here, and then I screw it down to the edge temporarily. Now the template works with a router that has a collar installed. This is a 5/8 inch collar and a 1/2 inch bit. And the bit will do the cutting. The collar will ride around the inside of the template. I find it very handy to write on the template your combination of bit and collar so you don't get confused and try to put in something else. So with the cut made, with the pocket routed out, I can remove the drywall screws. And since this hinge has square corners, I need to square off the cut. I just check my hinge to make sure that's a good snug fit, and it is. I just like to take some sandpaper and get rid of the fuzzies that are there so I can see the edge of the cutout a little bit better. If your chisel is truly sharp, you don't need a hammer or a mallet or anything. Just line it up with the back of the mortise like this and then push it in. Same on the end here. Push it in and then just clean out a little bit in there. Take the hinge and set it in the mortise. Now that the hinges are on the door, I need to cut the mortises in the jamb. I can then take my template, put it on my marks, line it up properly, and screw it in position. Then remove the template, square off the corners. Now I can drill the pilot holes for the screws and drive the screws. Now with the bottom hinge pocket routed out, I'll take the top hinge pin and mount the door onto this hinge. And then I'll screw through on this down here. I'll do that temporarily with one of the drywall screws from mounting the template. So that screws in. I can drill out the other ones and put the permanent screws in. Now I can take out the temporary drywall screw, drill out the hole, and then drive the permanent screw in. If the hinge screws in, then I can check to make sure that it closes properly. And it looks good.